Cubans were an armed population, do you think Fidel Castro would have been such a dictator? Or would they have been able to rise up? There's so many different examples of countries like Mexico. They could take that opportunity of being an armed populace and saying, nope, we don't like what you're doing. You are destroying our economy, the government, you're killing off the people. No, enough. How come the United States of America hasn't been invaded? Because we have the right. Now, it's unknown if this fact is actually true, but, they were asking the emperor at the time during World War II, why don't we just invade the United States? And he said, unverified quote, that we would not, because there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. Meaning that he understood we had the right as American citizens to own firearms. And there are those, and that's all that the NRA is there for. They are there to protect the rights of the people. Because guess what? Just look at the media. The constant attacks on the Second Amendment. Day after day after day. Every single shooting, other than most shooting. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the hypocrisy of what media is covering what. I mean, if the left was so concerned about guns, then why haven't they implemented any measures to help protect the people in Chicago? The politicians don't care. Really. They want to line their pockets with money. They want to line their pockets with money. They lie. They manipulate. Sometimes, like the NRA will hand over some money towards the campaign, and, that politician's going to bite them in the ass in the end. Because he's going to turn around and he's going to fuck them over, really. But if you want to see what the NRA really does, then I suggest that you look into what the NRA did during Katrina. Because the government, the confiscation, they're like, oh, we're never going to confiscate anything from you, blah, blah, blah. It's a constant back and forth battle. It really is. But it happened in New Orleans after Katrina. The government went into homes that were unoccupied by anybody, and they removed the firearms. I can understand somebody left their firearms. You don't want that to fall into wrong hands. I understand that. But they were forcing themselves into homes that had an occupant that refused to leave, that stayed there, and they're like, oh, you're going to have to surrender your firearm. An old lady, I can't remember how old she was. She was like in her 70s, maybe 80s. They forced her on the ground. They handcuffed her because she refused to give up her firearm. This is an old lady, And you want only the military and the police force to have the ability to only carry firearms and no other person carry firearms, because it has already been proven by the Supreme Court that the police are not obligated to protect you. They're not. If it's between their life, your life, and somebody else's life, they're going to choose their life because they're humans too. want the government to have full control over the guns, but at the same time, you don't trust the government. You know, and then you call us crazy tinfoil wearing hat motherfuckers because we look at stuff and we say, we don't trust the government. The government could become tyrannical, so we're not going to give up our firearms, and then you call us nuts? Really? But yet you don't trust the government. You don't trust the police, but you want the government, the military. That's a government organization. And you want police officers that you don't trust to be the only ones to have firearms. But I digress. You go back to Katrina in New Orleans, and you see what the NRA did. Because a lot of people returned home after they evacuated. They had their guns in storage, some, in a safe, and the police and the military broke in, and they confiscated it, and guess what? They refused to give it back to the people. Even though most of the people actually had their serial numbers and all the information on their firearms, the local law enforcement refused to give back their firearms. So the NRA, protecting the Second Amendment, sent representatives down there. Paid for lawyers for the individuals that had their guns confiscated. And you're going to tell me that they're child murderers? But in the same sense, they submitted a 250-page document stating it was the School Shield Initiative. 250 pages of ideas of how to make schools safer. And 35 of the states adopted it, and only 2 per state actually implemented that. Then here we are, we have politicians that are getting their nose dirty and saying, well, we've got to do something, but the easiest thing to do is take away the guns. Don't you guys get it? Vilify everything from gun owners to the NRA. Vilify anything that starts with a G and ends with an UN. Vilify any of that. And then your arguments for taking the guns away is so weak. So please stop. You're so misinformed. You're so deluded. You're so into the fear-mongering. But yet there's organizations out there like the NRA. And then the news media is just loving this fear-mongering because they sell off of fear. They've got the ratings because people are viewing it and they're eating it up like it's hotcakes. And not a single one of them is questioning it. And then when you have a conversation with the gun owner, you shut them out because you're like, I don't fucking trust you guys. But the truth of the matter is it's slowly dividing us. And you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. I mean, my dad is a liberal. I am more conservative. But you know what? He's my dad. I love him. I wouldn't trade him for the world. And honestly, I wouldn't want him to be conservative because we have some good discussions. Yeah, it can get kind of emotional. Sometimes the tension flares a little bit. But he listens to me from my view, and I listen to him from his view, and we kind of come together and kind of come to terms with some of the things. It is a beautiful thing when you actually have a conversation. I mean, yeah, it might be easier because, well, I don't know. I would say it's a little bit harder because my dad's liberal. He's my dad, you know? Expecting somebody that I don't know to understand what I'm saying, or having somebody that, you know, I don't know not listen to me, most of the times it's more like, fuck it, I don't care. I really don't, because the truth is I don't love that person. But it's kind of a strange feeling, you know. And the truth is the NRA, yeah, they donate money. I mean, but in the last 20 years, it's only been a total amount of like 200 million, maybe 230 million. In 20 years. You know, there are other corporations out there that do that in a freaking day towards a campaign. In a day. And there are some things that the NRA does look at, and they say, they talked about the bump stocks. But nobody listened. The only people that listened were the gun owners. And most gun owners are like, bump stocks? That's stupid. I don't need that. It's cool to have. And to get with your buddies and be like, watch this. But most of us are more into the whole marksmanship. Should somebody have the ability to have that, if it doesn't violate any laws, sure. If it causes problems, no, they don't need it. But majority of us are like, bump stocks, yeah, just get rid of them. You know, we don't need them. That's stupid. But you're going to talk about getting rid of an AR-15. It's like, yeah, it looks just like a military M4 or a military M16, but the functioning is totally different. You know? And that's, the truth is that the NRA does reach out and try to help people. They talk, they have their seminars, they have their meetings, and they try to help people. They don't go in there and try to force a business, you know, like Dick's Sporting Goods. Oh, well, you need to follow the law and you need to support the Second Amendment, and you need to sell rifles to people, and you need to do... They don't do that. Why? Because that, you know, okay, it's a private business. It's up to them. Have you seen any article about the NRA stepping in? No. But the NRA did step in when Deerfield, Illinois decided that they were going to ban, quote-unquote, assault-style weapons. And and this is the saddest part. This is the saddest part. Six of them on the board sat there and listened to countless. I think there was more like 28 people there that were against the bill banning these guns and just basically confiscating all these guns. There were 28 people there that didn't agree with it. Okay? They said their piece, it was their voice, you know. And there were about maybe 4 or 5 people there that were like praising this bill. And the 6 people listened to everybody's testimony, everybody's argument. And the thing is, what is going on is you hear Hillary Clinton and you hear